Visiting the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester is an amazing experience. But getting a private tour with Senior Director of Public Relations Shane Rhinewald is next level. You get it? That's a video game pun.
And one of our pièce de résistance type of items is the world's largest playable Donkey Kong machine. It's just shy of 20 feet tall. And it uses an original Donkey Kong motherboard, so it is the original game. So this exhibit here puts you into video game type of scenarios. So normally folks get an RFID bracelet, they create their own avatar, and then they complete all of these video game related tasks. So with these you can select, there's all of these different vending machines. You select your favorite and then you become a curator, and there's a screen you can project. So it's like your favorite console, your favorite role-playing game, and you have curated then your own dozen or so as you go through the exhibit.
What you don't have is the Odyssey system, which is what I grew up with.
So you will be in luck because we have an entire display that's dedicated to all console games. The Odyssey was the offshoot of Ralph Baer's Brown Box.
Yes.
I'm sure you know a little of that history, but Ralph Baer himself actually redesigned one of his prototypes for us, and he played our entire staff in the original Pong on the knobs.
Really?
No kidding.
You know, say 93, 94 years old, and demolished everyone. It was not even close. It was just like, dude, I won.
It's one of those things that you try to convey to your kids, like how far we've come.
Yeah.
Because like I just got the new Oculus system, the MetaQuest. The augmented reality stuff like blows me away.
It's amazing.
Like I'm sitting in my room and zombies are breaking their way through the walls, but they
Well,
don't
that's the thing.
appreciate
It wasn't that many decades ago that Ralph Baer was sitting on, I believe it was a train, and the idea of we could play video games on a television, like just that idea that we take for granted. Like now you can play a video game anywhere, but he thought,
You're carrying
what if
around
you
100
manipulate
in your
something and
pocket.
you see it on your TV? And that was this novel, groundbreaking idea. So the second floor is broken up by different types of play. So back here is more construction and building play. So there's some original Lego sets along the back. The original Hot Wheels lineup is in that case there.
I mean, I'm sure I didn't have the originals, but I had the models of all these cars.
You had that one too.
Yeah, I did too. That's what I said.
Oh my God.
See, you're already having the moments. That's what we
Yeah.
love about the museum,
Yeah.
is that no matter your age, you will have that moment of, I had that. I haven't seen that in 20 years. Oh my gosh, this was my favorite thing. Or people have the opposite memory of, I wanted that so badly, and my parents did not get it for me.
Yeah.
And I know it's been 30 years, but I'm still kind of mad at them about it.
Brian had that as a kid.
but not the toy.
You actually rode in it.
that. Yeah, for real life size.
So this side, it's less your speed, I think, but dolls and action figures.
I mean, I love torturing dolls as much as the next kid.
But one cool thing you might want to check out, this is an original Thomas Edison talking doll from
Oh, wow.
1890, so it was the first doll that spoke. And there's some good audio if you want to hear why it terrified children in 1890. So if you imagine it's 1890, nothing has ever talked to you other than a human. And then you unwrap this and that voice comes out.
This is where the modern
And you're like, this doll is haunted. And they were largely
Twilight Zone
returned.
talking Tina.
Right,
For real?
of course. Oh,
Yeah,
yes, right.
It was
Wow.
Thomas Edison later called them his little monsters. So this up here is the prototype for G.I. Joe, which Hasbro they bought a Ken doll from Mattel, sort of redesigned it and said, this is what we are now going to call an action figure. And then this was what ultimately came out as the first G.I. Joe 12-inch action figure. But that's the kind of stuff we love to collect, is the prototypes, the things that show the story of how the toy or the game became what it is.
Oh, those are terrifying. Oh, man. Good job, Brian. Nope.
So do you all have, I know gaming is your thing, do you all have a favorite game?
I always say The Thing for some reason. I love The Thing. Like, it's a co-op. I mean, it's a saboteur. If you get 8 people to sit down and play The Thing, it's one of my
It's an
favorite
experience,
experiences.
Ooh, Monopoly used to be round.
Yeah, so this here is,
You're blowing my mind. I did not know that.
This is one of our most prized possessions. This is the very first Charles Darrow prototype from Monopoly. Lizzie Maggie created the Landlord's game in the early 1900s, which was to show the ills of capitalism and evil landowners, and they had all the power and you could never win. So it was sort of the opposite of Monopoly.
Yeah, right.
But then it became a folk game. It was played all over in different versions. Charles Darrow, unemployed during the Great Depression, He played a version of this, then went home, and this was what he created from it. So he ultimately sells it to Parker Brothers. They turn it into a square game. He makes all the money. I like to say it's sort of the best and worst of capitalism, because poor Lizzie McGee didn't get the credit she was due, and she sued, and there was all of this litigation around it. Just like, one hand, really cool, on the other hand,
I mean, it really is a perfect model for capitalism.
yeah,
Because
the good and the bad, all wrapped up into one story.
Yeah.
I always laugh because there's a lot of little spelling errors. I think Mediterranean and a couple others.
The editor in me saw Mediterranean.
Charles Darrow, not the best speller.
So I did have erector sets, lots of erector sets,
Last year, I kind of.
many of them. I still have like some of my original sets in my house.
Yeah, and I think this at the time was the biggest commercial set you could get. I once did the math on what it costs back then to now, and it came out to something, and this was a few years ago. So with inflation, maybe it's through the roof compared to that, but it was still, like, to buy that in today's dollars for your kid would have been like $3,000.
Oh my.
Loved erector set.
With inflation, we'll say $4,000.
We'll round it
We'll
up.
round up by a
Why
lot.
not?
How long did it take to put this collection together?
Not heard from Ben.
So our founder, Margaret Woodbury Strong, she was a big doll collector, and she liked miniature. She collected a little bit of everything. I mean, the last couple decades, we've been just collecting really in earnest. You know, companies that go out of business, do you have your archival records? Do you have your prototypes? Do you have things like that? We will preserve it. And then I think you had mentioned earlier, people with their attics. You will find people that they come out of the woodwork with, hey, we hear you have a museum. I have 7,000 rubber duckies. Do you want them?
Brian, you want to play lawn darts?
You know, we had this as kids, and all 5 of us lived. All 5 kids lived.
Impossible.
First arcade game?
Yeah, Computer Space was the first arcade game cabinet. So super sleek, cool, not the most fun game ever, but revolutionary as far as being put in a cabinet system.
The game that inspired Fozzie the Bear. Fozzie.
So this is the ode to all things electronic game consoles. So starting with Ralph Baer's Brown Box, which we have a recreated version you can play, and then that becomes the Magnavox Odyssey in '72.
Hey,
first
why
console.
did you donate your first Xbox?
Yeah,
Why did you do that?
Wait, that is weird. What?
So you were not the designer of
I
the
was
Xbox.
not the designer of the Xbox. Is this like a prototype or original or?
I think it's one of the earlier ones, but yeah, this is one of those showstoppers because everyone goes, oh, mousetrap. And then I think 90% of people that walk through here have the same story. I didn't know it was an actual one. There was something to play? Like you didn't just set it up and knock the thing over and watch it go? Which I think was really what everyone was in it for.
Yeah.
Right. We have some of the original Dragon magazine copies from some of the creators. So our curator of board games can do a deep dive on. But that's our favorite stuff to collect is the originals, the prototypes, the manuscripts, the copies, the things that were owned by the designers, the creators.
This is amazing. These are originals. You guys cover every game that you can be.
As many as we can. Yeah.
Big question is, but do you have a crokinole board?
I will ask our curator about that.
Okay, could be a big gaping hole in the collection. Maybe we can help you fill.
I don't know if there's any Magic the Gathering
Yep, there it
fans, but these are Richard Garfield's hand-drawn prototype cards. Wow. Super rare. So this space here is our National Toy Hall of Fame. We induct toys every year. It's just kind of a fun, whimsical story. We do have, probably not as into puzzles as tabletop games, but this is one of the earliest puzzles from 1766 from John Spilsbury, the cartographer that decided to cut up a map and call it a dissected map.
Sure.
Not the most marketable name in the entire world, but it eventually became the jigsaw puzzle.
Well,
So the one in the back actually has pins in it, which lo and behold is where the name came from.
Oh, sure, of course, that makes sense.
It's kind of like Plinko back then. Not a lot of skill involved. You drop it and it bounces and floats down.
Now, is it my understanding that the flippers were added so that it would no longer be considered a game of chance?
Yes.
A game of skill,
So it
and
was-
therefore it would not be illegal as game.
It was considered gambling. It was on the books illegal in New York City. I assume they just forgot that it was on the books, but it was on the books illegal until the 1970s in New York
By
City.
the adding of flippers, it now became a game.
It became a game of skill. Yeah. So that was the whole idea, is that they evolved it from gambling to.
The more you know, Brian, thank you. And we do know a whole lot more. If you're ever in Rochester, be sure to visit the Strong Museum. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing you original content like this. Thanks, everyone.